Welcome back, my dear friends. A very good morning, good afternoon and good evening to all of you. And as you know, this is the DADM 2, which is Data Analysis and Decision Making 2 course under the NPTEL MOOC series. And and obviously I repeat it time and again, but in order to make you how things are as we progress, this is a 12-week course of 30 hours. Each week we have half an hour lecture of 5 each in total number, and after each week, which is of 5 lectures, we have an exam or assignment which is given, and after the end of the course we have a question paper or a final question paper to be solved. And we have already started the 5th week, and we are going to start today the 22nd lecture, and my name is Raghunandan Sengupta from the IME department, IIT Kanpur. So, if you remember, we were discussing about the decision which Ram and Shyam has, and they have to take a decision whether they want to go to IIM Ahmedabad or IIM Bangalore or IIM Calcutta, and each has different level of importance they want to assign to academic rigor with respect to placement potential. And when they individually consider these 3 institutes under this criteria, and they arrive at different weights for these alternatives, alternatives being A, B, C, I am A, I am B, I am C. Now, just at the fag end of the 21st lecture, I did mention that what if their parents come. I have not included that, I will come to that in explanation, what their parents come into the picture. So, obviously, for the parents both the sons would be of the same importance, but I did mention that they have their relatives in Bangalore, they want both of the kids to go to Bangalore, but Bangalore cost is high while Calcutta cost is low. So, obviously, they have to make a judicious decision with respect to cost, with respect to safety of the place, with respect to what are the subjective criteria they want to analyze in order to arrive the decision. Similarly, both the sums have also already arrived on the decision based on these 2 criteria which was mentioned. Some may be subjective and some may be objective. So, with this brief background, let me continue with the 22nd lecture. So, collectively when I consider Rams and Shyams, I have not considered their parents now, it can be expanded. Maybe the slide space is too small, hence I have not been able to do that, but I will try to explain that. So, Rams and Shyams collective hierarchy is as follows. So, basically it is the hierarchy and the decisions are analyzed accordingly. So, say for example, for the parents, if you remember, for parents when they analyze, Ram and Shyam basically get the same score of 50% as 0.5, which is basically values of P and Q. Now, for hierarchy 2, if you remember, Ram had a score of 1/3 is to 2/3 for placement potential with respect to academic rigor, while Shyam had a score of 1/4 is to 3/4 for placement potential and academic rigor, which is mentioned here. So, these were 1:2 and 1:4, that is twice and thrice. Now, let us mention them as points P the values which are given as P1, P2 for Ram and Q1, Q2 for Shyam. Now, let us go into the next level. If you remember Ram and Shyam, so this to coming back to the last slide, 50% were the weights being given to Ram and Shyam by their parents, and 1:2 and 1:3 were basically the criteria's weights which are being assigned by Ram and Shyam respectively. Now, let us come to the fact that for each of these criteria, how do the decisions or the alternatives rank themselves or are ranked by both the decision makers separately, which is Ram and Shyam. So, let us consider Ram, if you remember, had the for the points or the scores being assigned was basically P with some suffix 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4. I will come to that 1, 2, 3, 4 later on. So, Ahmedabad had 30 for Ram, 40 for Bangalore and 30 for Calcutta. So, the scores are given as P11, P12 and P13. Now, let me go into the alternatives with respect to. So, these are the alternatives are the A, B, C are with respect to the criteria which are placement and academic potential rigor. Similarly, the weights are 0.3, 0.4 and 0.3. These are normalized and they are denoted for RAM as P21, P22, P23. So, the first set which is yellow and red highlighted are that for A, B, C, I am A, I am B, I am C for these two criteria which is academic rigor and placement potential for RAM only. Hence, they are marked as with the main symbol as P with the corresponding suffix. Let us now switch our attention to sham, the other son. For sham, they are now denoted by the symbol Q with the corresponding suffix. So, it will be Q11, Q12, Q13, then Q21, Q22, Q23 depending on which level you are. So, Ahmedabad has 0.25, Bangalore has 0.25, Calcutta has 0.5, again a normalized score and these are given as Q11, Q12, Q13. So, you will basically assign them points accordingly. When you come to the other set of alternative based on the same set of alternatives based on the other criteria. So, they are Q21, Q22, Q23 and for the decision alternatives the weights are 0.35, 0.35, 0.3 which is 35, 35 and 30. So, if you consider this, the first set is for RAM, the second set is for sham. So, they will basically consider that and that 50 or 0.5 was the weights being given by the parents to Ram and Sham respectively. So, hence when I consider Ram's point and Sham point and then combine that for the alternatives A, B, C. Now, here let us pause one thing. It can be analyzed in such a way that I can rank the decisions individually or I can basically collectively consider the overall score for each decisions where all the scores of Ram, of Sham and the parents would be considered in a collective manner. So, you have to just basically make the hierarchy in such a way and give and multiply the points accordingly. So, for Ahmedabad, the scores are like this and if you see here you are combining all the weights for Ram and Sham. So, if I consider the part for Ram was P. So, obviously, this set of scores are with respect to Ram because they were the P with the corresponding suffix and this sets of scores were for Sham. So, this would be S, I will just use S for Sham and R for Ram. Similarly, when I come to Bangalore again I take the collective weights, only remember make a note of the suffixes which are there. So, P and Q are basically for Ram and Sham respectively, but the suffixes would denote you in which way the hierarchy has been denoted. So, I will use a different color, let me use the same color, so it will be easy for us. So, again this is for Ram, I think I should be use a different colors, excuse me 1 minute please. This is for Ram and let me use the light blue for sham. So, for sham is this one where the q suffix are there, but the q symbol is there, but the suffixes are accordingly. I will draw that. Please wait. So, this is for Ram, I will put a R. This is for Shyam, I will put an S. Then when I go to I am Calcutta, so initially I finished I am Ahmedabad, then I finished Bangalore, and I am going to Calcutta. So, this is Ram, and similarly this will be for Shyam for Calcutta. If I put the highlighter using red color, so this is Ram, this is Shyam. So, in this way I can be able to denote that. So, in order to make it much more clear, let me draw the diagram. So, I will use first black color and then mark it accordingly with the colors to give a but better picture about Ram and Shyam. So, you have the arms, this is Ram, this is Shyam. I am using the same color, please note that. And this will come for academic rigor, then for placement potential, everything. So, if I am considering, okay, let me consider in a better way. AR is academic rigor or PL is placement potential, and consider this is Ram. You will combine them accordingly and basically have different type of trees and combine them. So, it is not the only single hierarchy, they would be for Ram, they would be for Shyam, then combining from the point of view of the parents also. So, you will basically put weights accordingly. So, it is P11, so this will P22, no, it will be P12, sorry, P12, P13, then you will have P21, this one will be P22, and this one will be P23. So, if I go up the hierarchy, they would be multiplied accordingly. Similarly, they would be for one, again I am repeating, there would be one for Shyam and they would be combined for the parents. So, you will basically combine all the scores accordingly. I will come to that problem solving. So, what are the different wide applications for AHP? So, we will come to actual problem solving. So, wide range of applications exist. Say for example, you want to select a car for purchasing, you want to buy. So, who are the decision makers? Can be the father, the mother, the two kids, maybe the in-laws. So, what are the criterias? Maybe the cost, maybe the color, maybe the make, maybe the whatever the societal value it has. Some may be very irrational, I agree, but it may be. Some may be resale value, some may be maintenance cost, some may be boot space, some may be the criterias. Can be the safety principle, then what is the in the EMI you have to pay per month. Say for example, the family wants to buy a car for which they have to take a loan. So, all these things can be considered. You want to decide on a place to visit. maybe the cost, maybe the time to travel, maybe the safety of the place, maybe the hotel, maybe say for example, how whether it is a mountain, whether it is a seaside, what they like. The parents may like say for example, mountains, the kids may like the seaside, or the father likes a very quiet place, while the mother likes a place where there are a lot of hustle bustle, lot of market, lot of happening things are taking place, so that she is quite happy. Or the kids may like a place where it has a lot of games to be played. The hotel has, say for example, different type of games like maybe swimming pool is there for the kids, maybe snooker is there for the kids to play, maybe a football court, a tennis court, table tennis court, badminton, all these things would be there. So, they will basically give points accordingly. You want to decide about MBA program, just the example which I considered, like Ram and Sham, placement potential, academic rigor, parents there also say is there, which they want to also put on their kids. All these things can be considered as actual very interesting examples for AHP. So, the AHP algorithm is basically composed of two steps. Point 1, you determine the relative weights of the decision criteria. So, if you remember, I did mention Ram and Sham giving weights of 1:3 and 1:4. Those were based on the fact what is the score you want to place for placement potential with respect to academic rigor. Ram and Sham give those points. So, when you decide on the weights, the relative weights are decided by the decision maker based on the decision criteria which he or she has. That was the best one step. And then you determine the relative ranking or the priorities of the alternatives based on the cumulative scores a person has assigned to the different type of alternatives. So, we will come to that. AHP considers both qualitative as well as quantitative information, and they can be compared by using informed judgment to derive weights accordingly, so that you are able to combine the weights to arrive at the final answer. So, let us consider a very simple example. I am not going to make it very complicated. You can make it complicated with different layers of hierarchy, different layers of criteria, different layers of decision making. So, objective is to select a car, you want to buy a car. What are the criteria you want to consider? The style of the car, the cost of the car, and the fuel economy. I am not going to consider efficiency, EMI, per month maintenance cost, resale value, safety, all this I am not going to consider. They can be brought into the picture in order to make it much more realistic. Let us consider a very simple problem. What are the alternatives? Alternatives of Civic, the car, I-20, Escort and Alto. So, obviously, cost factor will also come into the picture later on, apart from these subjective criteria. So, this is the hierarchy. The hierarchies are, you have style, which is only style. Okay, by the way, another thing, I am this style I am considering it is of a single level of criteria or hierarchy. It can be, say for example, style can be broken down into more sub level of criteria, tertiary one, we are not going to consider that. The next criteria with respect to style on the same level is cost. Again, cost is only one set of criteria, it is not broken down. Maybe the cost would have been the buying cost, the selling cost, the EMIs, the fuel cost, all these things. Maybe the insurance cost, all these things we are not going to consider in a very simplistic manner for our problem. The third criteria is fuel economy. So, again fuel economy I am not going to consider whether at high speed or low speed, all these things. So, there is only one hierarchy, the hierarchy considers style, cost and fuel economy. So, what are the decision alternatives which you have? It is the Civic car, I-20, Escort and Alto. So, alternative course of actions based on the fact you want to arrive to buy the best car for only one person. There can be many persons who are going to take the decision. I am not going to consider all the different persons and combine them, I am only going to take one person's criteria. So, one of the decisions can be, say for example, Civic. For style you consider to buy a new car, then Civic for cost and then there can be civic for fuel economy. Say for example, then you consider I-20, it can be I-10, it can be style, then go, can be cost and then go, can be fuel economy and then go. So, these are being cumulatively considered. Next, for escort can be style, then you decide the selecting card, can be cost, can be fuel economy. So, these colors which I am giving have a specific significance. If it is yellow, it is a cumulative score which you are going to combine, multiply and sum them up for the civic. Similarly, for the orange one, it is a multiplicative factor of all the scores, sum them up for I-20. For the blue one which I have just done now is for the escort, multiply the factors and sum of the scores. And for alto, I am using the green color, where I multiply the scores being assigned for style separately, cost separately, fuel economy separately, combine them and add them up. So, based on the overall score, I will rank them from the highest to the lowest. This is our main idea, and obviously this can be done for person 1 father, person 2 mother, person 3 the in-laws, person 4 the kids, and so on and so forth. It can go like as you saw, it was Ram, Sham, the parents. Now, how do I? These scores which have been giving repeatedly, I did not mention anything about the scores, now I am going to come to that. So, look at this table as proposed by Sati. So, the intensity of the importance of the decisions are given on the leftmost column. So, there are odd numbers, it can be even also, which is in the last cell. The intensity of importance are given as 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and obviously you have 2, 4, 6, 8. I will come to that explanation, and the definitions are given. If you give a score of 1:1, it means there are equal importance, and is mentioned in mentions, which is this point which I do not highlight. I will just mark hover my electronic pen there. There are two factors which contribute equally to the objective, hence you are giving a score of 1:1. If it is a score of 3, which is somewhat more important, which you are giving because the experience and judgment slightly favor one factor with respect to the other. So, obviously, you will give it a score of higher of 3, and what is the score you will give to the lower one? I am going to come to that within 2 minutes. Consider the score is 5 for the higher one. That means, you are placing a level of importance which states by definition is much more important. Hence, there the experience and judgment strongly favor one criteria over the other or one alternative over the other. The next one, which is the fourth row, is of a score of 7. 7 means very much more important, which means that experience and judgment very strongly favors one over the other. Hence, its importance is demonstrated in practice. Hence, one would give a score of 7, other would give it a score which is definitely much lower. What is that low score? I am going to come to that, which I just mentioned. So, if the intensity of importance is 9, it basically means absolutely more important the one which you want to take with respect to the other, and as per the explanation, it means the evidence favoring one over the other is of highest possible validity. Hence, you will give a high score of 9, and other you will give another score which is definitely much less than 9. And if we give the weights of 2, 4, 6, 8, which are the even numbers, they are intermediate values, and when compromise needs to be made, then you can basically give. So, the reason why 1, 3, 5, 7 is that you want to basically bucket or make the buckets of the scores in such a way that there is no ambiguity, but if there is ambiguity, you can bring the points of 2, 4, 6, 8 also in the scoring along with 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 in order to make it much more smoothened enough. But obviously, the scores of 1 is to some value, 3 is to some value, 5 is to some value, 7 is to some value and 9 is to some value would give, if you are able to do that, you will give a much more rational and a stark differential ranking system. Now, what does it mean? So, see for example, what you will do in the case of this ranking of the cars, you will consider the 3 criteria based on which you are trying to rank. I am not bringing the car into the picture for the time being, remember that please. So, see for example, it is like this, if the cars are there, cars would be for a decision maker the same way as Ram's and Shyam parents would have analyzed Ram and Shyam separately. So, Ram and Shyam are basically the alternatives which they have in front of them. Now, you consider Ram is going to consider placement potential and academic rigor in the same way you are going to consider the what I should say, the ranking or the comparison or the alternatives in this way. So, what are the alternatives in the first criteria for the first level? I am not going to the second level because there was no second level, we would not consider that. There are style, cost and fuel economy. So, when you pay special attention to the first value which is 1 1, the second 2 cross 2 value which is again 1 1 and 3 comma 3 which is the third value, such that if you consider those values they fall along the principal diagonal. So, what does it mean? And it is very logical. When I compare style to style, I give a score of 1, that means style with respect to style they are of the same importance. When I rank cost to cost, again I give the same score of 1:1. When I compare fuel economy to fuel economy, I give a score of 1:1, hence the score is 1. Now, let us go to the off the diagonal element. So, let us consider, I will highlight each values accordingly. Let us consider 2 with respect to half. So, what it means that when I consider cost to say for example, when I am going to consider the concept of cost to style and when I am going to consider style to cost, I give a score of a ranking of cost is twice important with respect to style. Hence, I give a score of 2, and when I am consider style with respect to cost, it will be just but the reverse, in the sense I will give a half a score for style, while I had given a 2 score for the concept of cost. When I am considering cost and style, cost is giving is on a higher pedestal of a score of 2, while style has a score of half. Now, when I consider say for example, cost, I am only consider the for the time being the cost with respect to say for example, fuel economy. So, for me cost to fuel economy, I give a score of 4 to cost and 1/4 to a score of to a fuel economy. Hence, when I consider that, the concept of cost is coming out to be much more important with respect to fuel economy than it has been with respect to style. And when I consider say for example, the concept of fuel economy to style, I give a score of 1/3 to 3, that means fuel economy is 1/3 ranking with respect to style, hence style has a value of 3. Now, let us pause. The values which are written here are being given by a person, but obviously there can be some irrationality in the decisions of trying to rank, because if I am ranking A with respect to B, A is higher, and when I am trying to rank B with respect to C, where B is higher, many of the cases it turns out that the ranking of A with respect to C is such that C comes out to be on a higher ranking for A, which is logically not true. So, the table which you see in front of us or the slide is the ranking which has been made by the person, and we will basically try to combine all the alternatives in such a way that any inconsistency in the ranking would come out automatically as we do the problem. So, with this I will end the second class for 5th week and continue discussion of AHP later on in the 3rd and 4th class for the 5th week. Have a nice day and thank you very much.